Today we are doing My First Love, right? I could start singing right now, like a real love song, but I'm not because I don't have that kind of a great of a voice, even though you may project that way. But we are doing St. Louis ribs. What is up, gang? Sonny's Barbecue, head pitmaster Shannon Snell back with another Tales from the Pit. Today we are doing St. Louis ribs. It was the very first meat that I learned how to cook. It's one of the ones that, if you will, in the barbecue world, my terms that I learned how to perfect, even though that's never really a thing. And I wanted to show it to you guys here today. Technically, it's a competition version of ribs, right? But it's got like a nice little citrus kick onto it. So let's get started. So first of all, you see here is a big slab of spare ribs. All right, you'll see these at the grocery store. You'll see them kind of untrimmed like this, where you see them kind of in a big slab. This shouldn't be as intimidating as you think they are, right? First of all, it's gonna save you a little bit of money. I'm gonna show you how to trim them because when you get them, the butcher technically charges you for cutting them down. And he takes all the extra meat and takes it home for himself. So we don't want the butcher taking your proteins. We want you paying premium price for all the meat that you have here. So I'm gonna show you how to cut them down, how to trim them up a little bit. And then we're gonna make our sauce and our rub as we normally do. And we're gonna get them on a smoker. So first of all, just turn them over, right? Now, these are untrimmed. A lot of times if you get the St. Louis ribs or if you get spare ribs that are cut into St. Louis box style, a lot of this stuff is trimmed off. A lot of stuff is gone. It's not even here. And that's cool, right? But let me teach you how to trim them off. Let me teach you this method, and you'll learn something new along the way and you'll save some money. Not to mention, you'll have some rib tips that you can have to stick in a crock pot or stick in your smoker to smoke along with your ribs. First of all, you need to trim these down. You need to box these down. The one thing you can't do is stick these on and expect them to cook all the way evenly through. You see this side is really kind of tapered off and it gets really thin. You can't expect this side to get done at the same time as this side. That's just not gonna happen. No matter how many times you flip them in the smoker, how many times you move them around, they just won't get done at the same time. So you have to be able to have them cook evenly. And that's the reason why people in the past have done St. Louis style ribs, is because it makes them even. It's even cooking across the entire rack of ribs. So how do you make them even, you say? Just find the kind of middle bone, the longest bone here, which is probably around the third or fourth bone, and stick your finger at the end, at the very bottom of it. You'll feel kind of like some cartilage down here, right? And you're just gonna stick your knife, which I have right here. You're gonna stick that knife right through it, and you're just gonna kind of go straight across. You're just gonna kind of run it almost all the way straight through, where you're gonna square these ribs off. I'm kind of making myself kind of a line right here, if you will. That's a sharp knife, super important. Have a sharp knife when you're doing this, because a dull knife, you can get into some bone, your hand can move around a little bit, you cut yourself, not a really good feeling there. But just kind of make yourself a line, and you can readjust your cut a couple of times because you can just to box it up. But I know where my bones are, my longest bones are on this side, so I'm just gonna kind of go right down through them. You see that? That's all that cartilage right there. Cut that off. That's all that cartilage right there. All that cartilage that comes off. You're wondering what that cartilage is good for. These are like rib tips, right? It's extra part of the rib cage of that hog. Doesn't really cook well evenly, but also makes them really good eating. Don't throw this away. You can cut these up, throw them in your smoker. You can throw them in a crock pot. It's some good stuff. So, but this is extra. This is what you pay for in the store. So make sure you keep it. All right. So next up, we're gonna kind of square this up a little bit more. You can see it's still a little bit uneven. This end still needs to come off a little bit. Now, I always advise that you start at this end and you kind of cut down a little bit. You just cut it all the way down, adjust as many cuts as you necessarily need to. But you don't have to make just one cut, but just make sure it's as even and as square as possible. And you can feel yourself going through that cartilage. It should be very easy. You shouldn't have to kind of, put a bunch of weight on or anything like that. One hand should be able to do it. If you do, readjust your cut. If you're getting the bone, it gets a little bit weird. It gets a little bit scary because that bone could lodge itself in there. You cook it, somebody bites into it. It's kind of jagged. It's not really good. So just readjust your cut as many times as you need to. All right, so we're gonna stay on the back here. We don't need to do anything. We don't have to flip it over just yet. You've probably seen in our previous baby back rib video that we have to remove the membrane off the back. The same thing is existent with these St. Louis ribs right here. You have to remove the membrane off the back. So I'm gonna take like a little piece of paper towel right here. You don't need a spoon. even though that can get the job done, or like a butter knife, that can get the job done as well. This is really simple, really easy, and anybody can do it. Just take the rib, and it's still laying on the table, but you want to remove this entire membrane off the back. That membrane doesn't offer up anything extra. It's basically a paper thin membrane that's really tough, that doesn't add any extra flavor. Get rid of it. I'm gonna go right between the second and the third bone here. Wedge my fingers underneath. It's like I did that before. Get that out of here. Okay, cool. So now we're off the back. Now we can kind of trim off the rest of this. You see some of this skirt meat here. This is good eating too. Don't throw this away. You throw it, hey, listen, you go to home and your grandpa's house, you say, hey, grandpa, I listen how to cook ribs, or grandma, listen, I learned how to cook ribs. You end up throwing this away, and they end up saying, well, I learned it from Pitmaster Shannon. I'm gonna deny you. Deny you, deny it. Say you never watched this video. Matter of fact, this video will be gone from your library, so don't even worry about that. So we're just gonna take it and run the knife down the back, clean off this extra meat here. This is good meat. Once again, it's not you don't throw it away. You can stick it in your smoker, but once again, this is not gonna add anything extra to this slab of ribs. You want these things to cook as evenly as possible. That means sitting on the smoker as evenly as possible. So this can't be sitting on top of this when it's flipped over. Get rid of it, put it to the side, cook it for a later day. All right, here we are, but we're still on the back. All right, we're still got a couple things left to do. So you want to square these up as much as possible. I kind of think about cooking these at home how I would in a competition, only not cutting off as much. If you ever cook competition cooking, your best bones, your best ribs are going to come from this section right here, because they're the straightest. They're the ones that probably make the most sense when the judge bites into them. But if you're cooking at home, this is all good stuff too. You're not throwing this away. So you're going to keep that. But there's going to be some stuff here that doesn't cook as well. All right, this is very thin, floppy meat on the end of this slab of ribs. You're going to cut this off. You're going to get rid of this. You're just going to take it a little bit. And you notice there's really no bones in this. All right, as the slab goes down, your last bone is right here. All right, there's nothing in this. Okay, keep it. Cook it at another day. You don't really need to cook it with this slab here. Everything here looks good. Now there's some extra fat on the back of here. You may see this. I've seen people go through and trim this off and take this off. Don't do that. You can kind of rub your fingers over top of it, and it's almost soft. All right, this is going to be fat that renders down, that feels good. That's going to cook down in a high temperature smoker. So you don't have to worry about that. Not to mention the bone is right here. This is a little bit of added protection. All right, so don't cut all the fat off the back and all that other stuff. Not necessary. You can still have great ribs without having to do that. It's just going to add extra flavor and a little bit more protection. All right, I flipped these over, and these ribs look good. All right, you can add a little bit more trimming. You could do a little bit more to kind of make sure they're more squared up. But I like the way that they look right now. It's always good to go on the front side to make sure that there's no pockets of fat. There's nothing here that doesn't look appetizing. Just remember, when you cover it with rub and you stick it in your smoker, that's how it's going to look coming out. It's not like it's going to magically change over time. So just make sure that how it looks when it goes into the smoker is how it looks when it comes. It's how it's going to look when it comes out. All right. So I guess the next obvious step is we got to build a rub. Okay. I have my bowl right here, and I'm going to build very much a base rub. This is a rub that I go to for a lot of chicken, pork items, and it's a great rub. It's a very universal rub, but it's one that really has a lot of layers of flavor and a lot of depth of flavor. Flavors. I will start off with sugar. All right, just white granulated sugar works well. You can do brown sugar, that's okay. But I like white granulated for this particular recipe. I'll go a little bit of kosher salt. Some of that 18 mesh black pepper, really thick cut black pepper. It has a little bit of spiciness without going over the top. I'm gonna add more stuff here in the end that brings up that flavor, that pepper kick a little bit. But that 18 mesh is really good stuff. Or you can go thick cracked black pepper or restaurant quality. They all kind of remain in that same area. I have a little smoked paprika, which is great. Cayenne. You guys know I love cayenne. It's my thing. You can omit this, but you should always put this in, because the sugar does cancel it out a little bit, so it's good to put that in there. I got a little chili powder as well. Chili powder is great. It looks good for the appearance. Plus, it brings out some of the depth, some of that flavor, and those other ingredients. And the last two are pretty universal, from onion powder and some garlic powder. That's it. That's the rub. That's a very much base rub. You'll find that in a lot of pork rubs that have a lot of these same ingredients. You'll find some with that have a little bit of added cinnamon, some cloves, some things that aren't as prevalent in other rubs that kind of throw them off a little bit. But this is my base one, and I've always had good results with it. Whisk it. Okay, so that you know, I normally would put a binder on this. My binder being oil, mustard, something else that's gonna help this rub stick, but these are higher quality ribs. These are primes. So that means that they have a little bit more fat content. They melt down a little bit more, so that fat is gonna help them stick a lot more. I always suggest that the lower quality of your ribs, the more chances are that you need a binder. You can go without a binder if you never used one before. You're like, hey, that's not me, that's fine. I'm not gonna use one today, just to show you that the product can still be great without a binder, and your rub can still stick to the rub can still stick to your protein. Hand, you can do a shaker. I'm gonna do my hand just because I've gotten used to doing it, but a shaker helps you with accuracy and making sure the entire rib gets covered. But if you're out, if you don't have one, it's okay. Go ahead and use your hand. A third of this rub goes on the back of this rib. We're gonna press this in. We're not gonna rub it in. And the majority of this will go on the front side of this rib. Just cover it up. Press that rub in. Remember, all right, don't rub this rub in. This is important, all right? If I rub this rub in, I'm just gonna take one little section. All right, rule 1 of my barbecue Bible. All right, a rub is not a rub. You're like, hey, that doesn't make sense. Well, let me show you. If you take this rub in an area where you're starting to rub it, look what happens, right? It creates these little pockets, these little clumps of seasoning, right? That's not good, because if somebody takes a bite of that area, they may not get the full experience of something that you may have put into your seasoning. So make sure that you press this seasoning in. Press it in, press it in, press it in, press it in. Like so. Okay, we're gonna let these sit here for about 10 minutes. We're gonna let some of this rub soak in, some of that moisture extract out. Let's go get our smoker prepped up, and we'll be back here to show you what the sauce looks like. See you in a second. All right, so smoker's heated up to 275 degrees. I'm using hickory pellets for my pellet smoker here. I suggest for this recipe, hickory wood is good, hickory pellets, just really great. Hickory is a great flavor, great smoke for this kind of meat and this kind of rub and these ribs. So I'm gonna put these on the smoker, close them up, and it's gonna be a solid 90 minutes before I look at these ribs again to check for the rub, our rub test. So I'll put these on, give it a smoke nap, and we'll be back. And as a pro tip, I bunch these ribs up because I'm gonna wanna see between the bones. You can see some of that meat kind of shooting up here. That's really important because as they cook, they're gonna come out exactly how you put them into the smoker. So I want them bunched up. I want that meat in the middle showing, so when I cut them, it's an easy cut for me. We're back. Ribs on the smoker. They're smoking. I feel really good about them. That rub on it looked pretty phenomenal. So got them squared up, looking really nice. So we can check on those in about 90 minutes. But in the meantime, let's create our sauce, our orange glazed citrus sauce, a little bit of spiciness to it. First off, I have some Sonny's sizzling sauce. Good sauce. My favorite. It's right in the middle of the road. It's got a little bit of spiciness behind it, but it also has that sweetness that I really love. So I'm just gonna add that to my cast iron skillet. You're probably thinking, why are you adding this to a cast iron skillet? I'll explain that in just a second once we get all of our ingredients added. So that goes in. All right, we're gonna throw in a little bit of brown sugar. We have some orange juice right here. We talk about the orange glaze and where that comes from. What better than some kind of just some natural orange juice? Now you could use some sour stuff because you have a lot of sugar in here, but I figured you don't have to open up a new can or throw out something. You have orange juice available, which you should in your refrigerator. Good for you, vitamin C, good for your body, right? Healthy. You can just add that to your sauce. One of my favorite ingredients that is sometimes not used enough, apple cider vinegar, right? It goes in my coleslaw dressing. It goes in a lot of the dressings that I use. It's got that little bitterness, that little kick of flavor I just absolutely love. And it brings out, it kind of balances the sugars, right? You don't want a sauce that's too sweet. You don't want one that doesn't have any kind of balance to it. This apple cider vinegar brings a lot of balance. Balance. Mr. Miyagi, balance, right? Balance. All right, and honey. Honey's the last thing. We're adding some more sweetness to it. So this is a sweeter sauce, right? You're here for a good time, not a long time. So you're gonna add this honey to the sauce. It's gonna thicken it up a little bit. Get it all out. All right, make sure you have a spatula. A friend back in the day used to call us $1 million saver. That means over the course of your lifetime, if you scrape everything out of every condiment you use with a spatula, you'll save $1 million. I don't believe it, but it is what it is. All right, let's mix this up. This nice and incorporated. Now the cool thing about this sauce is, or any sauce that you do, is that the longer you let it sit or simmer, the better it gets, right? This one has a lot of sugars in it, a lot of stuff that we want to break down. So as sugars get hotter, they start to caramelize. So we want some of these sugars to start to caramelize. We want some of this orange juice and the sugars in it, and in the honey, and even in the sizzling sauce to break down a little bit. So we're gonna take this cast iron skillet, which is heat safe, and stick it on our smoker. So we're gonna stick this on. We're gonna let this simmer for probably about 20, 25 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. You gotta stir it maybe every 5-10 minutes. That's super important. Now, once again, if you're looking at it ain't cooking, so when your ribs are on, you gotta open it, stir it real quick, and close it back up. But make sure it starts to simmer because you want those sugars to break down. All right, so we're gonna get this sauce in the smoker. Just remember, it's gonna simmer because we wanna break those sugars down. It's important to let it simmer for just a little bit to break those sugars down to make the sauce even better. So we'll see you guys in just a little bit. I'm gonna take this onto the smoker and we'll be back. All right, so we're about an hour in, hour and 15 minutes in. This is an opportune time to check your ribs. You need to spritz them with apple juice when they start looking dry. Remember, ribs are a bone-in meat and they're really thin. The only kind of protection they have is the little amount of fat that they have on them. So apple juice will help keep them juicy, will help keep them flavorful, if you will, before you actually throw them into your wrap. So make sure you spritz hour and a half in. If they need to go longer, that's what we're gonna do right now. All right, our ribs are looking good. The color on them looks absolutely phenomenal. And just remember, one on the smoker, you're not really going for temperature. You're going for color, you're going for to see if this rub sets, all right? The one way we can do that is our rub test, all right? You just take your pointer finger and you just rub on that rib, okay? If you see no smears on that rib, if you see none of the rub come off on your finger, that's when you know that the rub is set and you're good enough to wrap. That means it's going into a wrap, it's gonna be wrapped up, and that's not gonna wash off, so that feels good. Now we are building the wrap, all right? A wrap is very universal. I do this for competition. I do this at home. I've been doing this a long time. This wrap is just generally used to add flavor, all right? Flavor is what you want to go for, building layers of flavor. You saw all the layers that we built with the rub that we built and the sauce that we have still simmering over there on the smoker. Now we're adding one more element to it. And that's our regular wrap, our rib wrap. So rib wrap starts with a base of brown sugar. Spread that out. All right, now I have some squeezed butter here. You can use margarine, you can use a little bit of butter. I like using this because it's easy to get out and you can spread it pretty easily without a problem. Like so. Okay, second to last ingredient, I have some honey. Like so. And the final ingredient is some of your apple juice. Now you need some apple juice just to break down some of this sugar. It's gonna naturally break down in this honey and stuff, but I just like to add a little bit of apple juice because there's a braising process that happens, that meat breaking down inside those fluids, adding more, getting tender, kind of loosening those fibers up. This apple juice is just gonna add another level, another layer of flavor. Just enough to kind of start breaking down that sugar. You don't need to pour like a gallon in there. That's not a good idea. Just remember, the more liquid you pour in here, the worse it's gonna be because it could end up washing off this, especially if it's taking a bath in liquid. We want that braising to happen. All right, remember, face down into the wrap, all that goodness just kind of soaking face up. Now this is an opportunity to get rid of some of the ugly stuff on the back, like some of the little crusties on the back of these bones. All right, you want it to look pretty. All right, you don't have to do this, but you want it to look pretty. You just want to kind of take some of that stuff off. That might have happened on your smoker, some of that juice kind of coming out, some of the blood coming from the bone. Get rid of that stuff, not necessary inside the wrap. All right, gonna wrap this up super tight. Now be very, very careful, all right? You do not want to poke any holes in this. If you do, that's okay, all right? Some people double wrap their ribs. I only believe in single wrapping them because sometimes when you double wrap, you're creating another avenue to not have that heat hit your rib. So I suggest single wrapping, but if you actually poke a hole in it, you can double wrap it. That's totally fine. You want to seal it at the top and seal it right on the edges. So, important tip, all right? I'm a pro tip. All right, push all the air out of this wrap, all right? You want a braising process to happen. If there's air inside this, you're gonna have steam happening, and that steam is gonna wash off all that bark that you worked really hard for. All right, doesn't seem like we have any holes in our foil. We're gonna put this back on the smoker. We're gonna check on our sauce while we're over there. All right, so we're back. We have our ribs here. We're gonna stick these back on the smoker. While we're here, we're gonna stir our sauce, make sure it's not sticking, make sure it's starting to get kind of nice and simmered up and caramelized. So look at this sauce, it's starting to look really good. You see some of this bubbling up happening on the edges, so it's important to stir all that in, make sure it's well incorporated. If you remember the sauce when we first stuck it on here, it was really kind of soupy. This is starting to thicken up now. That apple cider vinegar is breaking down, as is that orange juice. You can see those bubbles starting to happen, which means the sauce is starting to be incorporated. All those sugars are starting to caramelize and start to turn into a really, really nice sauce. All right, so I'm gonna let these ribs cook for a little bit. I'm gonna stir up this sauce, let this sit for just a little bit longer. We'll be back in maybe about 30, 40 minutes to check on both the sauce and the ribs. All right, so I came on over and I'm checking out my ribs. This is the thing about ribs, St. Louis specifically. You want them to get between 195 and 200 degrees. That's super important because that's doneness temperature for them. They're gonna be probe tender, which means they're gonna temp like room temperature peanut butter or butter. At that point in time, we can pull them off and rest them. So after about an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes, you can come back over and check them. That's what we're gonna do right now. Perfect. You see how easy it's temping, or how easy it's going through the foil. So it's temping like room temperature peanut butter. I feel like these ribs are done. Our sauce needs maybe just about 5 more minutes. So I'm gonna give these a little bit of time to rest. So I'll pull these off and let that sit for just a little bit. Okay. Put that sauce down, it's nice and hot. All right, nice and bubbly. Those sugars have melted down. All that honey that we have in there, that apple cider vinegar, that sizzling sauce, right? One of the best sauces at Sonny's. If you've never had it, try it. I feel like that's in a really good spot. And give it one final stir just to get all those, that extra sauce off the side right there. As so. Now, the final reveal of these ribs, all right? Because the last thing we have to do is stick some sauce on them. But this is kind of technically what they're gonna look like before we get to that point, so. And I always love this, right? During competitions, this is the best part of it because it really is the final product. Sauce doesn't really hide anything, especially this one, which is a little bit thinner. Oh boy, look at that. You see that? Look at all that cherry coloring. And it's really cool because in this wrap, that brown sugar, that honey, and that apple juice, that butter really does a great job of kind of accentuating or really kind of making this rib bring out those really nice, deep, dark cherry colors, which you want in a rib. That's what you want them to look like. Those bones are pulled back, so you know they're probably pretty tender. So we only have one final step left for it. Let's get rid of that. Now, we're just gonna add our sauce here. Now, some people say a thin layer sauce. I'm a heavy sauce guy. I wanna be able to taste my sauce, so I'm gonna sauce it pretty heavy. I'll start on the back. You have to sauce the back and you have to sauce the front. Just remember, when somebody bites into a rib, they're biting underside, their tongue is hitting the bottom side of that rib first, so the bottom is just as important as the top. And the great thing about sticking this sauce on the smoker is that it really thickened it up. Like I said, this sauce was great when we first mixed it up and we tasted it, but it's now even better because it's a thicker glaze, it's a thicker sauce. That honey and that brown sugar have really kind of caramelized and broken down some. All right, let's flip this over. Look how cherry that is. That's beautiful. I mean, there's one thing, and I know they're gonna taste good, right? But there's always something to say that it feels good when you create something and at least it looks the part. Kind of like working out. When you go to the gym, you wanna show off those muscles, right? Can you bench 405 pounds like me? Maybe not, but at least you look like you can. All right, let's finish that up. One more stroke here. All right, that look good. All right, we're gonna stick this back on the smoker for just 10 more minutes, all right? We want these sugars to kind of caramelize up a little bit more. We want this sauce to set on this rib before we cut into it, and we enjoy. All right. It's been 10 minutes. These ribs are officially, they're finished. This is the part I love about being a pitmaster, is that I still remember how to make some damn good looking ribs. They have this nice cherry look to them. I'm super impressed with that barbecue sauce because it turned into kind of like a glaze. So that feels really nice. So the only thing left to do is to cut into them and see how I did and how they taste. Now, remember what I said, I bunched them up on the smoker. You can see this meat kind of sticking up. In general cases, you're gonna flip these over so you can see the lines a little bit better, but I always took it as a challenge to try to cut them from the top side so I don't mess up my sauce. And speaking of sauce, this sauce right here, once you're done putting your ribs on the smoker, don't throw this sauce away, all right? This is still good. You can bottle it up and stick it in your refrigerator. You're gonna wanna use the leftover sauce to maybe touch up the size of your ribs. That's a super important thing. So don't throw it away, all right? Still solid gold. Man, these things are cutting like butter. that. So in case I want to show you something, I'm gonna pull this one out right here. Look at that. Look at that rib right there. You can even see the juice coming off of it. This is like the perfect rib, right? This is the perfect bite. Like if you're going to a competition and you're trying to learn how to compete and do all that kind of stuff, this is the bite, this is the rib that the judges want, right? It's super meaty, it's super thick, right? Kind of like me, but it's really, really good. So I'm gonna take a bite of this, and remember what I said, you know, even if you're judging, you can take some of this leftover sauce and just paint the sides of your rib. One side there, one side there. Just remember, a judge is gonna bite on it. Your guests are gonna bite on it. Your family members, their tongue is gonna touch this side and it's gonna touch the underneath. So make sure that these get some love too before you serve it. So, cheers. Look how easy that was. Here's the thing about a rib, okay? It is not supposed to fall off the bone. It's not supposed to happen. All right, you should see your teeth marks go easily through. You shouldn't be tugging away at it. Damn it, if I say so myself, that's the perfect rib. That is the perfect rib. Pop this open and good gosh, this butt looks amazing. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tales from the Pit. I am Sonny's Barbecue Pitmaster Shannon Snell, and today we are doing pulled pork. Let's get to it. Today we're talking pork, and more specifically, pork shoulder, pork butt, pork collar. You'll see them kind of in the same realm. So I want to get out the way a little bit of a myth about what a pork butt is. So if you take a look at a hog, the actual hind quarter, which would be the butt, is actually the ham. So that's actually not the pork butt. These actually come from the shoulder, from the collar side of a hog. The cool thing about these is this is how you'll see them in the store. They normally come 2 to a pack. They're really heavy. They're one of the heaviest pieces of protein that you can buy inside of a store, and they take a really, really long time to cook. As we're talking long cooks, I need to get this smoker ready, so I'm gonna head on over to our smoker, get it heated up, so we can get these pork butts on. All right, so we're at our combo smoker here. I'm gonna end up cooking these pork butts, these pork shoulders. We'll cook them indirect today. I'm gonna cook them at 275 degrees, and we talked about right at about 8-9 hours. There's gonna be some stuff that we do in between as well, but we gotta get the smoker fired up because we wanna get it heated up to the proper temperature right away. So what I'm gonna do is I have my trusty chimney right here. Chimneys are great because they compact your charcoal and they heat it up pretty quickly. You could always start off inside your actual firebox here, but I like doing this just to get the coals nice and hot. But I'm just gonna put these in here. And these burn for probably about 5 to 7 minutes. So I always put 2 to 3 in here and I put them in a triangle because it gets all sides of the charcoal hot pretty quick. Sometimes if you put them right in the middle, it only gets the middle hot and then it fans out. So got some lump charcoal here, all right? Lump charcoal is great. Now it's different from briquettes. Briquettes burn a little bit longer, but this burns hotter. I want a hot fire. I want to get that smoke up really hot. So you can do a combo. You could do briquettes and lump to get started, briquettes to get your fire, keep it going. But I like to do this all the way through because I just like a hot fire. I don't like it going out. I want it to be able to kind of sustain itself, if you will, and I can control the temperature with the vents. Now, you won't need to put any more coals than what you're gonna do here. You can use the wood chunks at that point in time just to keep your fire going, keep it flamed up, but just charcoal to get it started. And that's important because extra charcoal doesn't make sense. There's a carbon dioxide, as you can kind of see, that burns off of lump charcoal, that burns off of briquettes. You don't want to add that to a flame, especially when your meat's on there, giving it a really nasty taste. So just use wood to control it. You'll get that nice blue smoke, that pure blue smoke that you're kind of looking for. All right, you can see some of that nice burning going on down in there, that charcoal getting nice and hot. And that's really important with lump charcoal. It burns hot and it burns quick. We're just gonna take our charcoal, we're just gonna go ahead and dump it in. Now we're doing indirect cooking. You want to have it on one side of your firebox, okay? Not directly over every part of it because we're not doing direct grilling. All that flame, you see some of those charcoals have already started to flame up. Good stuff. This is hickory wood, great for pork. Hickory, we're gonna go ahead and put it right on top of our coals. All right, just a couple of them. This is almost a 9-hour cook, so yeah, I'm gonna have to put some more down. So we're gonna let that burn off, all right? We're gonna let some of those impurities burn off, and when we see a nice blue smoke, we're ready to rock. All right, so our smoker prep for our pork shoulder, our pork butt is done. Remember, it's got to get up to 275 degrees, really important. So while that's happening, we're going to be over here and creating a rub, right? Great rubs, great barbecue rubs always start off with some kind of sugar, whether that be granulated sugar, but we're using brown sugar today. I got some onion powder. I have some garlic powder here. Right, I have some cayenne. This is, once again, if you see any of the other videos on our Tales from the Pit series, be careful with cayenne. It's spicy, okay? If you have somebody, your guests, if you have somebody in your family that's not really digging the spice, then pull back off of this a little bit. A little bit of black pepper. Another staple in barbecue rubs is some salt. All right, you need to have some sort of saltiness in this. All right, if you use regular salt, as I'm doing right here, make sure you use a regular amount, but if you're gonna do something like kosher salt, double the amount, all right? That's the equivalent to this. Smoked paprika and some chili powder. This is a great base rub for pork. It's got a little bit of sweetness, got a little bit of savoriness to it. That's all you really need. Now, if this rub is not really for you, this Sonny's dry rub right here, it's great for everything. It's good for pork, beef, and chicken. You can go to sonnysbarbecue.com and pick yourself up a bottle, or just go into your local restaurant. They have them available there. So I'm gonna go grab my pork. Let me go do that now. Here we have our pork. So if you're taking a look at this, we're not going to touch this outer covering of fat layer. This is the skin. This is a covering for pork. Generally, stuff like this is not gonna render down, all right? This is a protective layer. There's a layer, almost a layer of bacon underneath, some of the most tender pork that you can have. If that's cooked down properly, it's one of the best bites of pork, so we don't wanna take this off, all right? But if you flip this around, like so, you can see some of this white stuff, some of this silver skin. So we wanna take this off, all right? Because it's not gonna render down, it's not gonna cook down. It's gonna be that stuff that you bite into it, it's not gonna be very pleasing. So, all right. Just like for all of the meats that we generally smoke, we need something that the rub is gonna stick to, okay? You can use oil, you can use water, you can just use the natural juices of the actual protein, but I'm gonna use mustard. All right, mustard's a great binder because the yellowness in the mustard gives me a guideline for my rub. So if it's yellow, that means I need to sprinkle it with rub. Now, the only thing is you wanna make sure you get most of the meat. Anything that's red here, you cover it with the binder. It doesn't mean as much on the skin. It's not gonna penetrate the skin as much. All right, we got our rub that we created. We're just gonna, remember, 6 inches above, you're just gonna cover this up. Anywhere you see yellow, that's why, once again, mustard is such a great binder. You're not gonna taste any mustard. If you're not a mustard fan, don't worry about it, okay? It's gonna cook off in your smoker, it's gonna smoke down, you will not get any mustard flavor. So I think mustard's a great binder, but if you wanna use something else, feel free. That's totally up to you. All right, now remember, rule number 1 in my barbecue Bible is a rub is not a rub. You do not rub a rub in, okay? You just kind of pat it in, all right? If you're rubbing it in, it's gonna create some clumps, it's gonna create some pockets of that rub, that beautiful, I mean, the rub is fantastic, but if you get a clump of it, it may be a little too salty, it may be a little bit too sweet. So just make sure you pat it in. That's all it needs. Doesn't need a whole lot of butt rubbing. All right, we're gonna take it on over to our smoker. Let's heat up to 275, let's do that now. So, we have our pork here. We're going to stick this on the smoker. Remember, it's 275 degrees, okay? It's gonna be a long cook. Meat side's gonna go up with all that beautiful season that we have on it. We're gonna go right ahead. Indirect cooking, right side of your smoker. Coals and stuff are over here. You do not want to put them directly over that. It's gonna sear it. You're not gonna cook the inside. This is a long cook, 9 hours, okay? So after the first 2 hours, we're gonna let this cook for 2 hours. Not gonna take a look at it, but after 2 hours, we're gonna come back and spray it with some apple juice. And after that, every 30 minutes, okay? Long cook, 30 minutes to an hour. This is a long cook. You want this pork to stay juicy. We want it to stay really, to have that juice all inside of it. That apple juice is gonna help it. So we're gonna close this up and we'll be back after 2 hours. So it's been 2 hours. I'm gonna spray this pork butt down with some apple juice. It's a super important step, all right? You need to create some moisture. It's a dry heat in here, okay? There's no moisture or anything, so you wanna make sure that you're keeping the pork butt, your pork shoulder, you wanna make sure that it stays moist. So I'm just gonna spray it down a little bit with some apple juice. After these 2 hours, we're gonna do that, and then we'll do it for every 30 minutes to an hour afterwards, or whenever it starts to look dry. So we're gonna close this back up. I'll be back in another 30 minutes to an hour to spray it down a little bit more and take a look at the color. Okay, so we are over here with our pork butt. Go ahead and open this up. So cook time on a pork butt's gonna range anywhere from 8 to 9 hours. You're looking for the internal temperature to get to right at around 200 to 205 degrees. That's gonna make for optimal temperature for that pulled pork to come out easily, to remove that bone pretty easily. You temp this pork in the thickest part. All right, the thickest part of the butt, which would be, or the shoulder, that would be almost right in the middle, right in the central part of it. Okay, so make sure you have a thermometer long enough to get you in there. The ideal temperature to pull this off for resting is going to be about 200 to 205 degrees. All right, our pork butt has been on here for quite a few hours. All right, let's pop this open, and good gosh, this butt looks amazing. So the rub on this pork butt is set. It's not coming off. Okay, we had always intended to wrap this butt in some foil. But even with what we do with ribs, we do the same thing with pork butt. We don't want that rub coming off. So this rub is set. It's got a nice cherry color, that nice cherry tint that you like on a piece of protein. So what we're gonna do right now, stop the browning process, take it on over, wrap it in foil, and we're gonna finish it off on our smoker. So we're done with the browning process with our pork butt. So only thing left to do with it is wrap it. We wanna get it up to that 200, 205 degree temperature so it's nice and easy, able to pull. So that's what we're gonna do right now. We've got our handy foil right here, and this is all you need. I do have some apple juice right here because I am going to just spritz it with some apple juice. It's nice to have a little something that is gonna braise in. Good to add just a little bit more flavor, it's a little bit more moisture to this wrap. Just take it and squirt it down a little bit, give it a nice little apple juice bath, and then you're gonna wrap it up pretty tight, okay? We wanna get to the point that it braises itself in its own juices, it breaks itself down, it breaks down those tough intramuscular fibers, because you want that bone to kind of just pull out and you have yourself some really just tender pulled pork. Like so. That's the end of it. Now we're gonna go put it back on the smoker. We're gonna finish it off on there, so let's head back on over there. Pulled pork is done, finished. It's finally reached a temperature of 205 degrees. I love pulled pork. Technically, the goal with pulled pork is to try to overcook it with it remaining juicy. So if you always err on the side of, hey, should it be undercooked or overcooked? It should be overcooked, okay? It's okay to get it up to 207, 208, 209, 210. As we unwrap this, we want the residual cooking to stop. This pork butt needs to rest for about 30 minutes or to about 170, 175 degrees. We talk about that because the fact of the juices need to kind of soak back in. It needs to kind of stop that process where the pores are open. So think about it like when you're working out. When you're working out hard, your body's trying to cool itself down. Body temperature gets up, your pores are open, you sweat, right? It's the same way, right? Once you stop sweating, once your body temperature comes down, those pores close, all that goodness gets sealed back inside. We're gonna do that with the pork butt. All right, so we're gonna wait about 30 minutes and then we're gonna come back. We're gonna add some sauce and stuff to it. So I'll be back. The pork butt is done. It cooked to 200, almost 205 degrees. Allowed it to rest to about 170 degrees. And this is the most fun part for me, is to see the finished product. You can see right now that jiggliness of the pork. That looks really nice, right? You can touch it, it jiggles. So that means that fat, that collagen has kind of broken down and this pork is nice and tender. So next natural thing to do is just to pull it apart. So that skin that was on the top, that was kind of a protective coating, you can go ahead and remove that. That comes off easily. You can set that off to the side. If you love cracklings, that's a good item to use for cracklings. You just put them down and cut them up, put them down in the fryer, put some seasoning on them. It's a good Mexican staple. So, but the real cool thing is when you take this bone and it comes easily out of the middle. I mean, that just comes off really nice. And you can see how it was nicely cooked, is that there is no, this bone didn't start specking up, it didn't start turning white, which means it could be overcooked. There's still a bunch of juice on that. That bone came out really nice and clean. Give that to your dog, use it for a stock, that's up to you. But then you can take the rest of this pulled pork and just kind of take everything apart. See that other bone coming out? Get off to the side, and it's the fun part, just kind of breaking it apart with your hands. It's just something satisfying about breaking pulled pork apart, just something cool about it. Now break it up into chunks, all right? You don't want to break that. One thing I've seen from different people is that they break pulled pork down so thin that it looks like cat food. You don't want that. You want it in chunks, all right? You want those chunks to kind of stay intact because you want that juice to stay inside, and you want to preserve some of that goodness. You want a nice hearty bite when you bite into the pulled pork. Voila. Now, the only thing that's gonna set this off better is some Sonny's sweet sauce, which I have right here, okay? You can use any sauce you want. That you can use our Sonny's Original, our mustard sauce, which is also good for pulled pork and a Carolina staple. But I'm a sweet sauce guy. I've been raised on it. It's my favorite. So I'm just gonna drizzle it right on over top. I'm not even gonna mix it in, but I am gonna take a bite. Pulled pork, cooked perfectly. That's exactly what you're going for. Tastes fantastic. It's something you can do at home. Hey, let me give you a money shot. You see all that juice coming out? This is the solid gold of what barbecue is. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tales from the Pit. I'm Sonny's Barbecue Pitmaster Shannon Snell, and today we're doing my favorite, smoked brisket. Let's do it. All right, so we're talking beef brisket today. Right here, I have a beef brisket in front of me. Whenever you go into a grocery store, this is what you're gonna see. That comes with an asterisk because some grocery stores sell the briskets as just a flat, which would be this lower part, which you get your slices from. And some of them sell just as the point, which you get a lot of your burn ends, chopped brisket, that kind of stuff. You go in, ask for a full packer beef brisket. They're gonna give you both of them, come packaged up in one little piece. This is a super long cook, okay? 8-9 hours that you're gonna have this on your smoker. Got a little bit of prep to do on this brisket, but let's get the smoker ready and heat it up. All right, so it's time to get this smoker rolling for our brisket. I'm using my pellet smoker today. I love pellet smokers for brisket because it is a long cook. It's a constant source of heat. You never worry about a real big drop in temperature, especially with these with this nice heavy duty steel. So I gotta fill my pellet hopper over here. Now I'm gonna use a little bit, the pellets I'm using is kind of a mix here, but they got a lot of oak and a lot of hickory in it, okay? Great for brisket, gives it a great flavor. So I'm gonna fill this pellet box up because we're talking an 8-9 hour cook. It's a really long cook, okay? We gotta fill this thing up, and we may have to fill it up again at another point in time. So just keep an eye on the pellets, and so you don't run out of them. You run out of pellets, it shuts this thing down, then you have to worry about getting your brisket back up to temp. All right, so we're gonna set the temp of this pellet smoker to 275 degrees, okay? Great home temperature. Great for brisket, great for pork. It's great for a lot of things. So 275 should be home. And we're gonna get this brisket up to about 200, 205 degrees, all right? It should kind of probe like room temperature peanut butter. So is there a specific time? One of the greats in the past told me when brisket's done. So, but if you're looking for kind of a little bit of a time guideline, 8 to 9 hours, but 205 is when you should really start checking that brisket to see if it's done. So pellet grill's heating up, it's getting up to 275 degrees for our brisket. That's simple and done. We're gonna build a simple rub for our brisket. Texans believe in bringing out that beefiness, that boldness of the beef, and what better way to do it with 3 simple ingredients. So what we have right here is just some kosher salt, right? Kosher salt's great, it melts over the brisket. It's not like normal salt, but if you're gonna use normal salt, use half the amount, okay? All right. We have some cracked black pepper here. Actually, this is restaurant quality, restaurant grade. I like the big granules. They're really good. They go well on brisket. They help develop that bark. You can use regular black pepper, but it gives it a little bit more of a bold, peppery taste. And then the last thing we have is some garlic powder. Simple garlic. Garlic and beef go well together, and the powder is not gonna kill you. It's not gonna be like raw garlic. It's not gonna be too much. All right, that's it. We're gonna whisk this up. Now, this is a great rub, all right? Simple, easy, but let me tell you something. This classic dry rub from Sonny's Barbecue, it's a really good rub. It's meant for beef. Matter of fact, we put it on our beef brisket. If you guys aren't near Sonny's Barbecue, go to sonnysbbq.com. You can pick yourself up a bottle, but if you are near Sonny's Barbecue, go in and say hi to our local pitmasters and grab yourself a bottle while you're there. Let me go grab the brisket and we'll start trimming that up. All right, so here's the brisket that we had removed out of the package from earlier. This one's actually in pretty good shape. Now, a lot of times you'll go to a grocery store and you'll see a brisket that has a ton of white fat on it, that has a ton of stuff kind of hanging around. That's the kind of stuff that we need to trim off. That's the hard fat that's not gonna render down. This flat doesn't have as much collagen as the point does. Point's a little bit of more of a well-marbled meat, a little bit fattier, right? Generally, you wanna leave about 1/4 of an inch of fat on this flat right up here. That means you trim it all the way down so that the fat that's on top, it kind of renders down and you still have that nice juicy bite, but there's still coverage there. So the first thing is when you're looking at this brisket, a lot of them have like this little mohawk right here. You can take this off. This is gonna burn, right? It's a really thin strip of meat. It kind of looks like skirt steak, flank steak. You can kind of just take this off. Most briskets are not like this, okay? They really require, you're taking off large hunks of fat. You're taking out a lot of that that white hard fat. If you don't know what that feels like, touch it, and you shouldn't be able. It shouldn't feel very soft like this. It's gonna, your finger shouldn't go into it. It's gonna feel real tough, and it's not gonna melt down. I don't care what kind of temperature it gets to. I don't care what kind of heat you put on it. It's not gonna break down. So, but this one's in actually pretty good shape. I'm gonna flip it over. So this is where a lot of the prep happens. This is where a lot of the cleanup happens. You see a lot of the silver skin. You see some of the stuff on the back that's not gonna break down. We need to get rid of that, all right? Make sure you take a sharp knife and you just start to clean, all right? You just get all this stuff and just start to clean off of it. Okay, here we need to take out this thing called the decal, all right? The decal is like that fat wedge in between the point and the flat, all right? That needs to come out. That is the hard fat I'm talking about. This kind of stuff you can't even grind up, all right? This is the stuff that just generally needs to go into the trash. And one thing when you're cutting a brisket, okay, it's always good to deal with it when it's cold, okay? The hotter it gets outside, all right, the more likely it is to be slippery. This one's pretty cold, all right? It's been in our fridge all night, and now we're slicing into it, okay? But make sure you're dealing with cold meat, not room temperature. Room temperature, obviously, for safety reasons, but also because the meat starts to sweat. When it gets hot, those pores open. When those pores open, the juice comes to the surface. All right, now, we also have to form this brisket, all right? We're gonna clean a little bit more of this up, but we need to form this brisket, okay? First thing is, we take a look on the opposite side, you'll see some kind of gray meat, okay? That's just oxidation from it, on the brisket, cold air hitting it. Oxidation turns it gray. You wanna take that off. That's not good eating, all right? That's the stuff that's not gonna be very, very yummy. All right, now, you need rounded edges, all right? Love Texas brisket, all right? They have round edges, okay? The round edges help the smoke kind of glide over the brisket. This little pointy edge over here, it's gonna be brisket that you can eat, but it's not gonna be very pleasant. So now we're just gonna take this edge and we're just gonna kind of round it off, okay? Good meat here. Okay, this is the good stuff. Don't need to be completely perfect. If you have the time to do it, then great. But you just wanna kind of make sure that there's nothing pointing out, and you want it to kind of go as the brisket. If you flip it over, rule number 2 in Shannon's Barbecue Bible is no hills and valleys, okay? Whenever you're doing brisket, there should be you should be able to kind of run your hand over. There shouldn't be a big mountain. There shouldn't be anything. This needs to kind of be somewhat flat. And that's also what you should be looking for when you get a brisket. Make sure there's somewhat symmetry inside with that brisket that you're picking out. All right, so just about done with this. I think it looks solid, both sides. All right, so now we need to season this brisket, okay? Now, with a lot of the other stuff that we do, we use mustard. Here I'm just gonna use some high point oil, which means it does well under high heat. So you can use olive oil, you can use canola oil. I got some canola oil right here. I'm just gonna kind of squirt a little bit right on over top. And just rub that in. Remember that rub I put in the shaker? Well, we're gonna put it on over our brisket right now. Don't be shy with your seasoning. Do not be shy with your seasoning, because this pepper and the salt is gonna be what forms your bark. All right, a little bit more oil on top. That looks pretty good. Remember rule 1 of our barbecue Bible? Never rub a rub, all right? Just pat it in. That's all it needs. All right, this brisket's ready. We're gonna go put this brisket on. Now, we're gonna do some spritzing here just to kind of give you a refresher. Generally for pork items such as ribs and pork butts, pork shoulders, we use apple juice. But for our brisket, we're gonna be using regular water. So let's get this brisket on the smoker. All right, so you can see smoker's heated up to 275. We're gonna put this on. Now it's gonna go on for about 2 hours, all right, before we decide to start spritzing with water. This brisket needs that time. It needs that time to start to develop bark. Your bark won't form fully until maybe after, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours there. All right, but we do need to keep it moist. We do need to keep it juicy. And that rub, those pepper granules, those kosher salt granules, they'll stick to it, they'll stay to it after about a 2-hour mark. All right, put it right on. All right, so we'll be back after 2 hours, start spritzing it with some water. But until then, smoke nap. All right, so our brisket's been on for 5 or 6 hours. It's developed this really nice bark. I've spritzed it with just plain water every 30 minutes after the first 2 hours. If you can see, it's got like this really nice, cool, dark bark on it that's combined with the wood, it's combined with the smoke, and that nice season of garlic, salt, and pepper that we put on it. Now we're gonna go ahead and wrap it. The temp on it was right around 165, 170, and it's stalled there. The stall is basically what happens when meat is trying to cool itself down. You know, the pores open up, it cools the surface of the meat down. You can't get past a certain temperature. Only way to get past that temperature is to wrap it. So it's dark enough, it's absorbed enough smoke, so now just time to wrap it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap our brisket. We're gonna wrap it in foil. So this has garlic, salt, and pepper, which is very reminiscent of Texas barbecue. And Texans call wrapping it in foil the Texas crutch. That means you need a crutch to get past that stall. Generally, Texans wrap it in butcher paper, but I like to be able to get my brisket done. It developed a really nice bark, so let's just go ahead and wrap it in some foil. We are gonna rehydrate the brisket a little bit. I got some beef broth here. It's gonna add a little bit of saltiness back into it, and it's gonna allow this brisket to braise. Now, if you have a lower grade brisket, such as a select, it's always good to use something like this to add some moisture, some juiciness back into it. But if you have a choice brisket, prime, or even a Wagyu brisket, this may not always be necessary. This is a choice brisket right in the middle of the road, but I'm still gonna add a little bit of beef broth to it. Roughly about half a cup to a cup, however much your brisket's gonna need. And pour it right over top, okay? You don't have to worry about that rub washing off. As you can see right here, it's not coming off. That bark is set, and it's good to go. All right, so we're just gonna take these edges, wrap them around the side, and wrap this brisket up nice and tight. No liquid loss, all that goodness staying right inside the wrap. All right, put it back on our tray, and we're gonna take it right on back over to our smoker. So brisket's all wrapped. Before we stick it on, I have a wireless thermometer that I'm just gonna stick the probe right into the middle, right into the thickest part of the brisket, and then I'm gonna put it on. This will allow me to monitor it without having to check it out or try to figure out what temperature it's at. I have the alarm set at a high level for 205 degrees. That'll be the temperature where I actually check my brisket to see if it's done. The brisket doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be done at 205 degrees because we're looking for a probe of room temperature butter. That's what the feel's gonna be like. Until it gets to that point, the brisket's gonna stay on the smoker. All right, set to 205 degrees. We'll be back when this alarm goes off. So, I'm here to perform some brisket surgery. Actually, it's already done. I had my wireless temperature alarm just scream at me. This brisket's now holding at 205 degrees. These things are great because you can walk away, and my wireless thing, no matter, it works up to 1,000 feet. It screams at me saying, hey, you need to go check your brisket. So, nice thing is, it's done. We're gonna pop it open. Now, some of the qualifying factors that you need to check to make sure your brisket's done. just like most of your other proteins, make sure that it's kind of probe tender. That means if you could take a probe or a toothpick or something, stick it in room temperature peanut butter, that means it's done. That means the fibers have broken down, everything's good, and you're ready to kind of pull it off and let it rest. So I'm just gonna take this probe right here. You see, there's no give to that probe. That means that brisket's ready to cut. Just feels fantastic. So I'm gonna pull this out. I'm gonna grab my brisket here. We'll take it on over to the cutting board. Well, my favorite cut of meat is done. This brisket cooked for right at about 8.5, 9 hours. That was really important. It takes it a while for brisket to get done. It's a long cook. It's one of the longer cooks of any protein that you're gonna smoke. So it just needs that time. The old adage or the old saying, somebody told me a long time ago, is brisket's done when it's done. I like to tell you every brisket's gonna be done in 8.5, 9 hours. Some of them may take 10, some of them may take 11. I've seen them go all the way up to 13 hours. So the single ideal thing that you have to look for is that room temperature, peanut butter, that probe being able to slide in and out very easily without really any give. So now what we're gonna do is, now that we brought our brisket on over, we need to let it rest. Just like we do most of our proteins, it needs some time to soak back up those juices, soak back up all that goodness, that nice rub, the beef broth that we put on it. It needs to soak that stuff back up just to be nice and tender and juicy when you bite into it. So we're gonna give this probably about an hour and a half. Brisket's a really thick cut of meat, so that internal temperature is gonna take a while to get down, but you're looking for right around 170, 165 degrees at that rest temperature before you can cut into it. So we're gonna do that, and then we'll be back. So we've had our brisket resting for about an hour, 15, hour and 30 minutes, down to 170 degrees, so now we can kind of slice into it. And I always love this, the reveal of brisket, because this is the good stuff that we've worked so hard for. See all this bark, this nice kind of dark, this dark stuff on the edge? That's the rub and the smoke combining together, form a crust on the outside. You see all the juices that are all inside this thing. This brisket's just, it is one of my favorite cuts of meat because it takes so much time. It takes a lot of love. You know, it just really takes some patience to deal with brisket. So, and ultimately, it always comes out well if you're able to give it that time. So, all right. Now we're gonna cut through what we like to call it the flat, which is the bottom part of our brisket, which is a little bit more lean. You're gonna get your slices out of, and the point, which you're gonna get your burn-ins, chopped brisket, the good stuff. This is my favorite part of the brisket. But if you cook it really well, you got a lot of nice bark on it, you're gonna get pretty good slices out of all of it. So you can mess this up if you don't know how to cut it, okay? Cutting it with the grain is gonna mess it up. It's gonna remind you of Aunt Betty's lunch meat. That's not really good, something that you might have got in the lunchroom that's not really appetizing. Could have been really good, but just forgot how to cut it. So if you're trying to figure out which way the grain runs, just flip it over. You can kind of see the grain runs this way on this flat. So that means if it runs this way, you're going to cut it against the grain this way, if that makes sense. So I got a nice 12-inch brisket knife. These are great for carving. Serrated ones works just as well. So just make sure you have one of these around, because this brisket's a long piece of meat, and if you have a short knife, you're not gonna be able to get all the way through it with nice even cuts. It's cutting really nice. You always love when you're able to cut in a piece of meat or a thick piece of meat like brisket, or when you're able to kind of dig your hands into some pulled pork, and it's just that hard work that pays off and is nice and tender. Just slides right through like butter. All right. So this is what we like to call a hang test, right? That brisket hangs on both sides of your finger, all right? It doesn't fall apart. It doesn't just crumble. That means it's overcooked brisket, and you can see all the juiciness inside this brisket. Now, when you do this, it should still be able to pull apart easily. Watch this, just watch the fingers. Pulls apart just like butter. That's when you know the brisket is cooked super well. It's not overcooked. You can even see all the juiciness that's still coming out of the flat. The flat doesn't have as much marbling as the point, and it's still got all that juice in it. So that rest time really helped it. It soaked back in all those juices that we were talking about, and it created a really nice brisket. So we're gonna go from this end over here. We're gonna take off some of this point meat. Now, if I wanted to separate this brisket in half, you just take your knife, all right? Just go flat down against the flat, and just run your knife all the way through. Ooh, hey, let me give you a money shot. You see all that juice coming out? We'll separate that. So this is the flat, and this is the point where you get burn ends and that chopped brisket. just take your knife and you basically just cut some slices here, right? And then you can just take your knife and just chop it up. You're gonna get some nice chopped brisket. Look at that. That is the best piece of brisket that you can have. That nice little burn in, that nice little crusty piece on the back that has all that bark and all that season, that salt, pepper, garlic that we really worked hard for with all that smoke. This is the solid gold portion of brisket. This is exactly what it is. So I'm gonna try this. I am there's something about me that says, hey, I don't wanna try it, but I'm gonna try it because this is the solid gold of what barbecue is. There's something about the flavor of that and something about the way the marbling breaks down and all that good stuff. I just love. I love this brisket. I love the point meat. I love how the bark formed on it. It doesn't get any better than that. Good Lord, this is so good. Oh wow. Hey everyone. Sonny's Barbecue Pitmaster Shannon Snell here, and today I'm gonna show you how to smoke some chicken. Let's do it. So we're talking smoked chicken today. So when you go into a grocery store, this is exactly what you're gonna see. You're gonna see your chicken kind of cut up into pieces. You're gonna see a bunch of different varieties. We got legs, we got thighs, and we got breasts. But we're gonna save you some money, right? We're gonna take a whole chicken, what we have here, and we're gonna cut that up. And I stress the emphasis on save you some money because whenever you go in and you see the pieces already cut up, the butchers probably charge you a little bit extra just because he put in the work. Well, you can put in the work, it's gonna be super easy. But before we do that, we're gonna go back here and prep up our smoker. So I'm right here in front of my, my pellet smoker. There's a bunch of different ones on the market. Doesn't matter, it doesn't mean you have to get one or another. A lot of them work the same way. What I'm going to do right now is turn my pellet smoker up to 325 degrees. And I'm gonna hit my ignite button. Now I'm doing this because chicken is one of those products that needs to be cooked fast. It doesn't have a lot of intramuscular fiber, a lot of water weight, so the best way to cook chicken is hot and fast. Try to get it done so a lot of those juices seal back in and you can have really great cooked chicken. Now you can see some of the nice smoke starting to pour out of this pellet smoker, but we need to make sure that the pellet box is all the way full. If you run out of pellets, it's generally going to shut this smoker down. So we want to make sure that this is nice and full, you never really run out, and it still gives it that nice smoky flavor you're looking for in your chicken. In there, close it up. All right, now that we got our smoker all prepped up, it's getting nice and hot, we're gonna go prep our chicken up. All right, so we got our smoker prepped up, we got our chicken, kind of explain what that looks like. Now it's time to get into some of the rubs that we're gonna use on that chicken. So I'm gonna create kind of a basic rub. Now with rubs for a poultry item, you don't want it to be overly sweet. A little bit different from pork, and it's actually very much different from brisket. This one's gonna have a little bit more savoriness to it to bring out really that flavor in the chicken. So what I have right here, well, I'll say not a lot of sweet, you got a little bit of brown sugar. So we're gonna go brown sugar in. To offset some of that brown sugar, I have some kosher salt. Now, if you're gonna use regular salt, which you can, make sure you do half the amount of the kosher salt. It'll still give it the same kind of flavor. All right, I got some smoked paprika, one of my favorite seasonings, and it gives it that nice little smoky flavor. I got some chili powder. Some cayenne, this will burn you up, so please be careful, all right? A little goes a long way. All right, staple, some garlic powder and some onion powder. Gonna mix this up with our whisk. Now, here's a tip for you that you need to understand. I have a shaker here, right? You can apply this rub to any one of your poultry items or your turkey or any one of your proteins, but it's always great to have a shaker. A shaker, make sure that you can apply a nice even coat across your food. Really great to have around. So make sure you go out and buy yourself one. It's great for all your rubs that you're gonna use for your barbecue. We're gonna include the recipe for this rub in our description box below. If you don't feel like prepping this rub up, if you don't feel like doing it yourself, go to Sonny's, grab yourself a dry rub. It's great for pork, beef, and or chicken, or go to sonnysbbq.com. We have those bottles available on there. So right now, we're gonna go grab our chicken, ready to prep that up. All right, so we showed where to buy chicken from. We showed the smoker prep for the chicken. We showed you how to make a seasoning. So now we're gonna show you how to cut up a chicken while we're here. Once again, this is gonna save you a lot of money. So really, you know, this is a great culinary arts tool, and chicken is so universal, such a family favorite. This is something that you're gonna use all the time. So let's separate this chicken. We're gonna do into 6 equal pieces, okay? First thing you wanna do is remove the legs and the thighs from the actual breast. Simple, cut right along the edge here, separate that skin. And you're gonna do that on both sides. Like so. Okay, put your knife down, okay, and just go ahead and break the thighs. Just break them right off. You should be able to see that knuckle bone that comes out on both sides. Knuckle bone. All right, that's gonna give you a guideline to cut down into this chicken. It's gonna be a lot easier than trying to manipulate your knife. And don't try to lean over the chicken. Don't do a bunch of stuff where it's gonna put you in a dangerous spot, especially when using a blade. Just move the chicken around, okay? But it's always good to break at the joints to be able to give yourself a guideline. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just take it and I'm just gonna remove right around the chicken here. Like so. It's one beautiful piece. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. We're gonna go right down into the joint. All right, second piece right here. Now, what we wanna do is, you've seen in previous videos when we spatchcocked the chicken, we were able to remove a spine and cook it flat down. Well, we're gonna do the same thing here because we wanna separate the separate the breast into 2. So flip it over, grab your trusty kitchen shears. You don't wanna try to chop through bone when you don't have to, so make sure you use kitchen shears. These are much easier. And you're just gonna cut down the spine. Simple and easy. You should be able to kind of go through it pretty easily, all right? You should be able to feel the spine separate pretty simple. Put those down, just separate the rest of it. Right in the middle, you're gonna see a wishbone, okay? You're just gonna kind of take a knife and split that wishbone a little bit. All right, splits easily. All right, and then you're just gonna break it right in half, just like so. Feel good, right? And then you take a bigger knife here, you take a chef's knife, this is a 12-inch chef's knife, and then you're just gonna separate right down the middle, okay? Now I'm going to leave the bone on, all right? Whenever I'm smoking something, it's important to leave a bone on to have some protection, especially when it's a little bit of a longer cook. If I was cooking this on a grill over some propane, I could take the bone off and that would be totally fine because it's gonna cook at a much quicker rate. But whenever I'm smoking it, I always leave the bone on just to provide some protection to that breast, which can dry out pretty quickly. Go right down the middle, like so. Now, in general cases, I would remove the wing, but I'm not gonna remove the wing. I actually like the wing on. It cooks, it gets a little bit crispy. So I'm gonna just leave that on because I like it that way. For yourself at home, if you wanna take the wing off, you do the same thing that you did with the thighs and the leg here. You cut right down in the joint and you can remove that wing. So you're saying, Shannon, you said 6 equal pieces. What we do, we're gonna separate these thighs and the wing right here. Same thing, you're just gonna take your knife and you're just gonna go right down into the joint. Okay, you see a fat line down here? I actually went right through it, and you're just gonna get right into the knuckle and cut it right in half. It should be very easy. If you hit bone, just readjust your cut, all right? Don't try to chop through bone. It's not worth it because generally you're not gonna be able to get through it. It's gonna create some splinters, maybe some stuff that's not very appetizing to eat. And we're gonna do the same thing with this one. Right down, I'm gonna find the fat line. And look how easy that is. Look how easy that's coming. Now this is a sharp knife, okay? You have something around that's gonna be able to cut through cartilage, all right, but make sure you have a nice sharp knife. Look at that. You got like nice 6 equal pieces right there. Now we did make up a rub earlier, so it's important that we use that rub. We use our chicken rub. I actually was able to transfer it into a shaker. All right, I'm not using my hands because you guys see I just cut up some chicken. I wanna use that rub again at a later date. If I'm putting my hands into rub with raw chicken, it's going in the trash. So let's go ahead and season up this chicken. And you're gonna season up on both sides. That's super important because of the fact that chicken doesn't have a lot of flavor. It doesn't. It has a lot of water weight to it, but it's not like pork or beef where it has a lot of collagen, that saltiness, that goodness in the middle. This is a lot of water weight. Nice And make sure, pro tip, should be about 6 inches above your protein when you're putting rub on it, just to make sure you cover all surfaces. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, we're done with the prep phase. Let's get these on the smoker because I'm ready to eat. I'm hungry. So we're back at our pellet smoker. We have this set to 325 degrees. It's nice and hot. It's been flowing for a little bit, so we want to get this chicken on to the smoker to get cooking. Now just remember, your thicker pieces should be in the hot spots of your grill. All right, for me, my Traeger is going to be on the left side. Always love that nice sizzle. All right, so remember, these are gonna cook for roughly about 30, 35 minutes. It's more important that the internal temperature of each piece. Now, don't just temp one piece. Every piece has to be an internal of 165 degrees to be safe to eat. So we're gonna wait for every piece to get to 165 degrees. Meantime, I'm gonna go work on my Alabama white sauce. So I was hanging out in Mobile, Alabama, and stopped by a barbecue joint and had some fantastic barbecue, had some stuff that was way different, and one of those way different things was a sauce. So I said, well, let me try it, and it like changed my life, right? And they call this stuff Alabama white sauce. So first of all, I'm gonna make this Alabama white sauce. It goes great with poultry. It's a poultry item. Here's my take on it. First thing, we need a base. So you're gonna start off with base of this mayo. All right, mayonnaise in. All right, next up, we got some cayenne pepper because I like a little bit of heat. And I only did this, this is no specific recipe. Now with that heat, I need a little bit of sugar to kind of cool that stuff down. So I'm gonna put a little bit of sugar in here. Some black pepper, a little bit more spice. Salt, all right, you need a little bit of salt in any kind of sauce. Most sauce has a little bit of salt in it, so I need some salt in there. Now I do have some horseradish sauce here to give it kind of a nice earthy kick to it. Dijon mustard. You can use regular mustard, but that Dijon kicks it up a little bit. Got a little lemon juice. And I got some apple cider vinegar. This is really just to break up the mayonnaise. Still gives it that appley, gives it that kind of, not fruity taste, but it gives it a nice little kick, nice little bite to it. All right, you just take your whisk and you're just gonna whisk this in. Now, this Alabama white sauce is not like your regular barbecue sauces. It needs to be refrigerated. The colder it is, the better. But give it at least 2 or 3 hours just to sit in your refrigerator, get nice and chill, nice and cold, because we're gonna be dipping our chicken in it, and I'm telling you guys, I'm pretty excited. Let's taste it up. Sweet Home Alabama. That's some good stuff. Woo! All right, I'm gonna go put this in the fridge. We're gonna check on our chicken, be back. So we have our trusty thermometer right here. Important when you're cooking poultry items because you need to take the temperature. It needs to hit 165 degrees. That's the most important part of chicken. It's been about 30, 35 minutes here, so time to check this chicken now. Now you want to temp each piece of chicken, all right? Don't just temp one and expect every one of them to hit at 165. Get yourself in trouble. Make sure you temp each one just to make sure it's in the safe zone. And perfect. Now I'm temping it in the thickest part of each piece of chicken. That's important. Don't temp it just on the outside, but in the thickest part. And each one is actually over 165, is around 168, which is great. Great temperature. I know it's safe to eat. So let's close this up. Let's go get our sauce. Listen, Sunny Sweet Sauce is one of the best sauces on earth, okay? I've been eating this thing since I was born in 1982. My dad was probably putting it in my bottle. So it was good stuff. It was one of my favorite sauces. I was raised on it, so I'm gonna add it to my chicken here, okay? Now the thing about Sunny Sweet Sauce is that it has like it has sugars in it that are gonna allow it to caramelize on your chicken. And it's good that you can do it right here on your grill because it only needs about 5 minutes. At the very most, just to caramelize under that heat. Remember your grill still set to 325 degrees. So 5 minutes is really all it needs to kind of caramelize, to kind of break down a little bit. Perfect. All right, we're done with that. Let's head on back over, give it another 5 minutes, and we're gonna eat some chicken. It's been 5 minutes, so let's open it up and let's see if I like to say the juice was worth the squeeze. And woohoo! Look at this chicken. It's like a masterpiece. So whenever you see chicken glazed over, you see that sunny sweet sauce, it really broke down, show all that caramelization. This is what you work for. Chicken just looks phenomenal. Look at this. Look at the beautiful color on this. That sauce caramelized. See all that pretty caramelization on there? It's juicy. All right, it got up to the proper temperature, so we know it's safe to eat. All right, pull this last piece off. Woo-hoo-hoo. Now for the best part, let's go eat. All right, all right, all right. And there you have it. That's how you smoke chicken. Super easy, saves you some money. We created a really great product. Only thing left to do is to taste it. I'm a dark piece man myself, so I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna dip this in my Alabama white sauce right here. Good Lord, this is so good. Oh, wow. Guys, I urge you to try this recipe. It's phenomenal. You're gonna love the taste of it. Oh my goodness. So it's one thing if they look good, but they also gotta feel good. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tales from the Pit. I am Sonny's Barbecue Pitmaster Shannon Snell, and today, showing you how to do this, baby back ribs. Let's do it. So these are our baby back ribs. Now they may be a little bit different from what you might get in Sonny's, our St. Louis spare ribs. They're a different bit of a cut, all right? Spare ribs come from the belly of the pig. These come from the spine of the pig, which does a lot of work, so you won't get a lot of fat. So generally you'll find these ribs at a Whole Foods store, one that sells food in bulk, just because these come two to a pack, and a lot of specialized grocery stores won't sell these. They'll sell them in a smaller pack, but you'll find these baby backs available in most grocery stores that sell food in bulk. So before we start prepping these baby back ribs up, what we're gonna go do is get our smoker prepared, ready to cook some really good baby back ribs. I have a combo smoker right here. These are super fun, super easy, and they're great for items like baby backs, any ribs in general. This side I have a side that's good for smoking and good for searing items with charcoal, and this side I use for also grilling, which uses propane. How do we prep it? What are we gonna do? All right, so we have our chimney right here. We're gonna put these lighter cubes, which are gonna get nice and hot, and then on top of that, we're gonna put our charcoal. We're gonna do some indirect cooking over here on our grill, and we're gonna end up doing it with some hickory wood. So I got these lighter cubes all lit up, and now we're gonna put some charcoal right on the top. We're gonna get this nice and hot. It's gonna go right inside of our grill. All right, so these coals are getting nice and hot, so we can pour them right now. Let's pop open our grill. Now you can see right here, I placed them on the left side of my grill because with my ribs, I'm gonna cook them on the right side. That's called indirect cooking because we wanna do smoking, not direct grilling. So we're gonna let those coals sit for a little bit longer, get a little bit hotter, and we're gonna put a couple pieces of wood chunks right on top. Just wait for about 2 or 3 minutes here. So I'm adding hickory to this right over the coals. We need some of these hickory wood chunks to get hot, to start burning off a little bit and produce some really nice, clean smoke, which will make your baby backs taste amazing. So we're gonna let these burn off a little bit, and we're gonna go start working on these baby backs. All right, so we just finished prepping up our smoker. That's rocking and rolling, getting hot. Now we gotta make a rub. A rub for ribs is imperative when you're smoking, all right? We're talking about a bone-in meat that's somewhat thinner that needs to add more flavor. So what better way to do that than our own very own homemade rub? So what we're gonna do is start off with a base of granulated sugar. We have some salt, a little bit of black pepper, some garlic powder, along with some onion powder. We have some cayenne, one of my favorite seasons because of the heat. We have some chili powder, and my absolute favorite seasoning, smoked paprika. Just give this a whisk, and bam, you got yourself a rib rub. Now while we put that off to the side, we'll actually do our sauce as well. So we have some Sonny's original sauce right here, and we have some honey. This is gonna be able to glaze our ribs at the end of our cooking process. So we're gonna build that right now. So we're just gonna put some honey inside of our Sonny's original sauce. Just give this a whisk. And bam, there you go. We got our rub and we got our sauce ready for our ribs. Time to go get them prepped up. I'll be right back. So here we are, baby back ribs, the raw baby back ribs that we have. Prepping them is actually very easy. There's only a few things that you need to do to them, but I still have to somewhat clean it up. I still have to make sure that the great meat that I'm cooking is the great meat that I have coming off the smoker. So one thing that I'm gonna do is just go ahead and flip this over. Now, as you can see right here, one of the major things that you have to do when you're prepping ribs, whether that be not only spare ribs or St. Louis, but also baby backs, is remove that membrane. There's like a paper tissue thin membrane on the back. This one was already removed, but all you need is a paper towel. You're able to peel it off very easily, or use the back of a spoon. All right, you wanna get that paper thin membrane on the back because it does not allow for you for that rub to penetrate on the back of that rib and get that maximum flavor that you're looking for out of it. Another thing that you can do is there's stuff on the back, like this little skirt meat back there on the back, and actually as part of this is some of the membrane. So this membrane on the back is something else that you can pull off. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this off because this is unappetizing. This is stuff that I'm really not gonna eat, that I don't want on my ribs. It's not gonna cook down well anyway. But these look great. I'm gonna go ahead and apply my binder and apply my rub right now. Now, I use mustard just because if I see yellow, that means it needs to be covered up by rub. But you can use oil, you can use a high point oil, you can use water, you can just stick your rub on as is. But binders generally help the rub stick and prevent them from not coming off. So you're not gonna taste the mustard at all. It's just a binder. It's gonna cook off during the cooking process. So I'm just gonna go ahead and apply it here. And you wanna apply it to both the back and the front. And like I said, it's a good guideline for your rub that you're gonna see here. Wherever you see yellow, that means it needs to be covered up with rub. So I got my rub in my shaker, remember 6 inches above, and you're just gonna cover it up, wherever I see yellow. Now you don't need as much rub on the back of the rib, but you do need some. All right, all my yellow's covered up. So I'm just gonna take it, I'm just gonna pat it in, okay? Never rub a rub, okay? That is rule number 1 in the Shannon's Barbecue Bible. Do not rub a rub, okay? Rubbing a rub is gonna cause this rub that you're putting on here to clump and cause uneven taste in your rib. So if you bite into something, you may get a pocket of rub. Just pat it in, that's all you need to do. That sugar, that salt is gonna bring some of that moisture out to the surface. All right, just gonna flip those over and do the same thing. All right, you use all that rub. All right, I'm gonna grab my tray, transfer them on over to my smoker, be right back. Okay, so the smoker's heated up to 250, 275, smoking hot. You can see all that nice blue smoke coming out of there, which means it's clean smoke. I'm gonna open this up. And once again, we're gonna cook this indirectly on this side of our smoker. See that right side's firing up pretty hot. We do not wanna cook our ribs over that because we don't want them to burn right away. This is gonna take a little bit of time. All right, we're gonna close this down. We're not gonna attempt to look at it or anything. It's gonna take a nice smoke nap for about 2 hours. We'll come back and check on it. All right, so our ribs have been on for 2 hours, right? I have some apple juice here. Apple juice is a great product. It goes great with pork. So you just kind of mist your ribs. And like I said, this is at the 2 hour point. You're not looking for temperature right now. You're more looking for color, and you're looking to see if your rub is gonna set, right? We do a rub test. Basically, you can take your pointer finger. If you can rub it down the rib and none of the rub comes off, then it's ready to wrap. But this one is not ready to wrap just yet. So we're gonna spritz it just a little bit here. Make sure it's nice, and then we'll continue to let it cook. So we'll come back in another maybe 25, 30 minutes to check on them again, and you should be spritzing after every 25, 30 minutes. Anytime you open this smoker up to check on your ribs, if they look a little bit dry, a little apple juice ends up taking care of that. All right, it's been another 30 minutes, and they're just about ready to wrap. So once again, this is at another 30-minute mark. So I spritzed them after the first 2 hour mark, another 30 minutes. They should be almost done here, ready to wrap. All right, so it's been about 3 hours. We spritzed our ribs a couple of times. The rub's not coming off. The spritz did really well. It's not washing any of that seasoning off. So it's time for us to get them in the wrap. It's time for us to pull these off and get them wrapped in some really, really good stuff. Onto the tray. All right, let's go get them in the wrap. All right, so we just pulled these ribs off the smoker. Now what we're gonna do is make a wrap. Now I use heavy duty foil because you don't want the rib to puncture anything that you're gonna put in this wrap. So you're just gonna tear a sheet big enough to fit your rib. So first thing we're gonna start with is some brown sugar. Okay, after that, you got a little bit of honey. Okay, after that, you got some butter. Now, I love squeezed butter. You can use butter pats, but squeezed butter is generally broken down already, and it works the best for me. Perfect. Now, before you actually put the ribs, which are gonna go face down inside this wrap, just use a 1/4 cup of apple juice. I like to keep it in my spray bottle that I use over at my smoker, so I'm just gonna spray it right on top, 1/4 cup. Should be more than enough. And you take your ribs and they're gonna go face down right inside of all that goodness, okay? So you're gonna take your wrap and just wrap these ribs up tight. You wanna make sure that they're super tight because there is a braising process that happens. You don't want them to steam too much because of the fact of steaming takes off that bark, it takes off that seasoning that you worked so hard for. Like I said, heavy duty foil works well because those bones poke out a little bit. And you don't want to poke a hole in these. Wrapped up tight, there's one. We'll do our other. Same process here. Perfect, let's go get them back on the smoker. Now, these are gonna go face down. We place the meat face down inside of our wrap. We're gonna do the same thing on the grill. They're gonna go face down, let it braise in that butter, that honey, and that brown sugar. Indirectly away from the coals, and we're gonna close this back up. Now, this is gonna take about another 90 minutes, hour and a half for these ribs to be anywhere for you to be near checking them, okay? So when we come back after those 90 minutes, I'm gonna teach you about the bend test, and I'm gonna teach you about temperatures where you should be pulling these ribs from. Alrighty. I feel like these ribs are done, right? They've been on for about 1 hour and 45 minutes in the wrap. Let's take them out and let's see the temperature. Let's see our bend test to see if these ribs are really truly done. Look at those. Now, naturally, I take the temperature, and if I do this, what I like to do is temp right between the thickest ribs, right in the middle. These are reading right at about 202 degrees. And also if I take this thermal pin and I just poke in between, it feels nice and soft. That means a lot of those fibers have broken down. But also there's a bend test you can do for this. You see that? You see that middle, that meat in the middle starting to break away? That means those ribs are done. That means the ribs are at a temperature where they're tender enough so that whenever you're ready to sauce them, or if you're ready to eat them right now, you surely can. You should always check every rack, just like you do with any piece of protein that you might put on your smoker, you might put on your grill. Check every piece, all right? So one thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have to finish these ribs off. So we have some Sonny's original sauce and honey. We're just gonna brush these over top, and we're gonna take them right on back over to the grill and finish them off on the grill. And there's nothing better than having caramelized sauce on ribs, but it's even better when you're able to grill them. So when your ribs come out of the wrap, there is a rest time. You need to rest them for probably about 15, 20 minutes, right? We talk about the juices having to soak back up into the ribs, those pores being wide open, and that's super important with ribs because ribs are bone-in meat, very thin, so there's a resting period that needs to happen. They need to get down to right at around 170 degrees or maybe about 20 minutes. Now, one thing we're gonna do when we take them over to the grill, we're gonna grill them 2 minutes on each side, all right? That's all they need, they're done, all right? So there's not a whole lot left you need to do to them. They just need to be grilled for 2 minutes on each side, and then they're ready to come off. All right, so we need to take these on over to our propane grill to finish up. Remember, 2 minutes each side. One thing I haven't done yet is I have not sauced the back of them. We're gonna take our sauce on over there. We're gonna stick these face side down. We're gonna sauce the back, 2 minutes each side, and then they'll be ready to eat. So let's do that right now. Okay, so this is the final step of baby backs. We're gonna put some char on these ribs. We're gonna grill them up. There's nothing better than char on anything, especially on some baby back ribs. And this is just like the next step to add some more flavor to them, to caramelize that sauce that we just put on. So that's what we're gonna do right now. So this is our propane grill. Like I said, a combo grill is really great for ribs like this to be able to do 2 steps. So we're just gonna put them down. We're gonna put them down 2 minutes on each side, and then we'll pull them off and be ready to enjoy them. All right, we're gonna take our ribs. We're gonna put them face down on this grill here. Get that nice sizzle. Now remember, it's gonna be 2 minutes on each side. And we're gonna take the sauce that we made earlier and just brush it right here on the back. This is a quick process. This grill got up to about 500 degrees. So we're gonna see some char marks pretty quick. Mixed with some of the sugar and the honey that's in this sauce. It's gonna make for a phenomenal baby back rib. Baby backs are ready to flip. We're gonna take some of that sauce that we made earlier. We're just gonna finish off the front. You don't have to flip them again. They're actually gonna be good to go from here and ready to plate. Spend the 2 minutes on the back side, so let's take these off, transport them to the tray, and take them back on over. All right, baby back ribs, done. All right, take a look at these. Oh my goodness. These are absolutely just perfect. So it's one thing if they look good, but they also gotta feel good, all right? I love the way they feel. They feel nice and tender. You can even see some of the bones starting to pop out of the top of them. So you know me, right? You know what I have to do. I'm not gonna leave without trying what I just cooked. So let's take our ribs and cut into them. I'm gonna flip it over. Now it's nice because I can see the bones. So if you're trying to chop these ribs up, if you're trying to decipher how to get a cut out of them, flip them over on their backside. You can see the lines perfectly that you're gonna end up slicing into. They slide through them right like butter. Let's get a pull here. Look at that. Look how easily they came out. These are cooked perfectly because you can see a nice juice coming out of them. They've been resting for a few minutes, so let's take a bite. So I feel vindicated right now because when you can take a bite, and you can see your teeth marks right in it, you know you hit it, you got it right. They taste really good. The tenderness, that juiciness, that moistness that you bit into, there is absolutely nothing better than that. And like I said, the tenderness is spot on. Super happy with these ribs. Try them at home. Try this recipe at home. I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say down in the comments section. I always read these. Give me some feedback. Tell me what you liked about this video. Tell me what you want to see. I'm Sonny's Barbecue Pitmaster Shannon Snell. Make sure you also like and subscribe. There's a notification bell down there. Ring it. Just ring it. It's like a doorbell, all right? Whenever a video pops up, you'll see my smiling face or other Pitmasters from our Tales from the Pit series. I'm Sonny's Barbecue Pitmaster Shannon Snell. Have a good one.